temperature or the ocean water is affected or determine, two things affect the ocean temperature. Who can remind me about them? Do you remember what are they? What are the two factors that affect the temperature of water, ocean water? What are they? What are the two factors that affect the temperature of the ocean water? محمد الحاي يلا.
Latitude and ocean depth.
Excellent. Excellent محمد. تالا.
I was going to say latitude and depth, the
Right.
deep
What
of
about
the
the
ocean.
latitude? Can you explain for me what is the meaning or how the latitude affect the ocean temperature?
Just like the water on the equator.
Excellent.
It's so hot because in this place the sun is very hot, so the water is so hot. But in the North Pole and South Pole,
Yes.
it's frozen or
Yes.
so-called -2 degrees.
Excellent. So, thank you, Muhammad, and thank you, Tala. Excellent. That's right. The latitude of is important in determining the ocean water temperature. We mean by the latitude, it's simply the latitude is the location of the ocean water. Of course, close to the equator receives large amount of sunlight, and all the year the sunlight is vertical or direct to the ocean. In the areas, ocean water in areas that are very close to the equator, the water is hot and the temperature can reach 30 degrees Celsius. But in areas close to the North Pole and the South Pole, there is a very little amount of sunlight. So the temperature of ocean water can be very cold. It can reach to less than 0 degrees Celsius, -2 degrees Celsius, which is very, very cold. The second factor that affects the ocean temperatures is the depth. Always the surface water or the water that is at the top of the ocean is the warmest, while deep ocean water is the coldest. Deep ocean water is the coldest because it receives less sunlight and is colder than the surface water. Okay? Even at the equator. At the equator, for example, this temperature 30 degrees Celsius of the ocean water, this temperature for the surface, the water that is at the surface. But if you go deep at the ocean, even the oceans that are close to the equator, the temperature, of course, will drop. So, like this.
Mister?
Wait, أيوة إيش يا I want to open the whiteboard بس. Okay, to understand how the depth affect the ocean water, suppose that this is the ocean, okay? As you go deep in the ocean, the temperature will get colder, okay? As you go down in the ocean, the temperature or the ocean water get colder. The water at the top is the warmest because it receives large amount of sunlight. But as you go deep, the temperatures get colder and colder, and the deep water at the bottom of the ocean is the coldest. Is it clear? So two factors affect or determine again the ocean temperature. It is the latitude and the depth. اوكي طيب
Third,
ايوه ساره.
Mr. I didn't
I
understand.
didn't understand.
Who's talking?
Me and Malak.
Malak.
Sarah
طيب
and
don't worry,
Malak.
don't worry, don't worry. There are two important things. طيب oceans يا ملاك and سارة. اوكي طلع the ocean temperature, the temperature of ocean water. Okay, يعني like your body يا ملاك, you and me, our bodies have a temperature. Everything on earth has a temperature. Water, ocean water, has a temperature. The temperature of the ocean water is affected or determined by two things: the latitude. What is the latitude? To understand, the latitude is the location. It is like the location of the where is the ocean. يعني water, oceans that are close to the equator.
Mr. write it.
No. I just want to explain for you. Oceans that are close to the equator are what? Hotter than what? Than oceans that what? That are
Oceans
closer
are far.
to poles.
To the north.
طلع شوي. Simply, which is here? طلع شوي. Which is colder? This is the globe. This is the globe. Here is the North Pole. Okay.
North.
And this is the South
South.
Pole. And this is the equator.
East.
Okay. This is what? The equator. Fine. As you know that the temperature on Earth, not all Earth has the same temperature, or the sunlight is not equally distributed on Earth. Some areas on Earth have or receives, some areas receive very large amounts of sunlight, so they are warmer or hotter. Equator is the hottest place. You can say that the equator is receives the largest amount of sunlight. So these areas at the equator, areas that are here, the areas that are close to the equator are the hottest. So that is the same thing. Water in these areas that are close to the equator are hotter, but water on the North Pole and South Pole and the areas that are close to it are colder because there are little amount of sunlight. That's what we mean by the مين هذا اللي طلع صوت؟ That's what we mean by latitude. The location of the ocean water is important in determining the temperature. Ocean water that is very close to the equator is hotter than ocean water that is close to the poles, like this. Okay?
Mr.
استنى شوي, wait. So look here, the sun's heat or sun's light warms Earth's ocean water. Water temperatures change with latitude because of the angle of Earth's axis and its relation to the sun. Sunlight at Earth's poles is spread out more than at the equator. So water temperatures near the equator are about 30 degrees. Polar ocean water or ocean water that are close to the poles can be as cold as -2 degrees Celsius. So why there is a big difference? It is according to the amount of sunlight. At the equator, there are more sunlight, but at the North Pole and the South Pole or the polar ocean water, it receives little amount of sunlight. So it is very cold. Okay, so surface water around the equator evaporates, and also surface water around the equator evaporates more quickly because of high temperatures. Sadine, do you have any question?
Mr. Yes. Scientists said that the equator, the countries or the things that are next to it are very hot.
Yes, of course.
Example.
Sadine.
Okay, but it is an imaginary
Yes, it
this
is.
thing. How did
Okay. It is an imaginary line. Do you know what is the meaning of imaginary line? Yani if you go to the equator, you can't see a line that is drawn. But there are...
It's an imaginary line, so it's not real.
It's not real line, but there are, يعني, for example, Brazil, South American, and most countries in the South America, like Ecuador, Brazil, these areas lies very close to the equator, or at the equator exactly. So it doesn't mean if it is imaginary line, but there is equator. Okay.
Mr.
Okay. ايش سلمى؟
I don't understand where our water.
I'm not talking where water is everywhere, but I'm talking about the temperature of the water.
I know of
طب
the
أسأل
ocean.
الآن معلش حسن وسيرين تالا سارة أبو خيط أحمد غسان يعني مش فاهمين شو يعني latitude أو you don't understand also what is the effect of latitude on the water temperature?
Yes, we understand.
Yes.
طيب okay again يعني
I understand.
wait يعني عادي أي واحد ما don't worry يعني at any moment you don't understand a thing, tell me. This paragraph is talking about the latitude and its effect on the ocean temperature. Simply, if areas that are very close to the equator or water areas that are very close to the equator, the ocean temperature there is hot or warm, 30 degrees. It can reach 30 degrees Celsius. Areas that very close or polar areas or areas that are very close to the poles, North Pole and the South Pole. So polar ocean water is very cold. It can, for example, minus 2 degrees Celsius. Notice the difference between 30 degrees Celsius and what? Minus 2 degrees Celsius. Do you know how much the difference? The difference is
Why?
32 degrees. The difference is 32 degrees. It's a big difference in temperature. Suppose that something temperature is -2 and the other is 30. It's a big difference. Okay, so ocean water is colder where? In polar areas. And ocean water is hot where? Near the equator. Why? Because of latitude. Because areas or the equator receives large amount of sunlight. But here in the polar areas, it is always, most of the year, it is cloudy. And the sun shines there a few days. Yani if you can, all around the year, 365 days of the year, the sun shines in the polar areas very, يعني maybe few days, okay? But at the equator, the sun is always shine. There is, and it is direct vertical. It is direct to the equator, okay? طيب. Is it clear now?
Yes, but
طيب. The second factor that affect the temperature of the ocean is what? Its depth. Water at the top, water that is at the top of the ocean is warmer than the deep water because it receives more sunlight. It is very simple to understand. Okay, the second factor that affect the ocean water temperature is the water depth. Okay, it is ocean depth. Always at the surface, it is what? Water that is at the surface of the ocean is warmer. And the deep water is what? Is colder. Why? Because the sunlight, the surface water at the surface, it is warmer because it receives more sunlight. Sunlight heat it more. But the water at the deep water is colder because the sunlight can't reach to that depth. We are talking about the ocean. The ocean is very deep. The ocean is very deep. Did you know how much the depth of the ocean? It can reach more than 2,000 kilometers down. So it's very, very deep. Okay. So again,
What the heck?
this is the ocean, for example. This is the surface of the ocean. Water at the top is warmer here because it receives more sunlight. Okay? It receives more sunlight. Okay? This is not my face, it is the sun. Okay? Water at the top or surface, called surface water, is warmer than deep water. Okay? Because it receives more sunlight. Why?
Mr. I didn't understand.
Okay, طيب. The depth, you don't understand the depth or the latitude? Or both?
All.
Look, this is the ocean. This is the bottom of the ocean. Here, as you go down, the water temperature gets colder. Okay, why? Because it is very far from the sunlight. يعني the sunlight can't reach to the bottom of the ocean. Okay? ما بعرف صعبة يعني شايفينها؟
No. بالعكس كتير سهلة. يا بإيدي.
طيب don't worry.
Easy.
So ocean temperatures. Ocean temperatures are not the same. Some oceans are warmer than others. And also at the ocean itself. For example, if you we are talking about the Atlantic Ocean alone or the Pacific Ocean alone. It differs. The ocean itself, the temperature is different according to the depth. Ocean water at the top is warmer than deep water. Deep ocean water receives less sunlight and is colder. Please highlight it. Deep ocean water or water at the bottom of the ocean receives less sunlight, so it is colder than surface water. Okay, even at the equator. Okay, and the first factor we were talking about, it's the latitude. The latitude, the water temperatures near the equator, highlight this, water temperatures near the equator are about 30 degrees Celsius or 68 degrees Fahrenheit, while polar ocean water can be as cold as -2 degrees Celsius, which is equal to 28 degrees Fahrenheit. And also, because of high temperatures, surface water around the equator evaporates more quickly than at the poles. طيب. You can, by the way, يعني anyone can you see the effect of temperature on the depth. Bring a tank. جيب مثلا عندكم اذا في عندكم تنك كبير او شيء اللي بتحموا فيه المي مثلا. put water here. يعني fill it with water and leave it in the sun. You can see that. Put your hand. You can see that warmer the water at the top, surface water, is warmer than the water in the bottom. يعني put your hand here first at the top of the water.
أستاذ رح نلاقيها متجمدة.
لا يعني I mean لا غسان in these days today for example today put water like this and leave it for 1 hour. You will feel that the temperature of water that is at the top is warmer than one at the bottom. يعني put your hand down, you will feel that it is colder here. Here it is colder, but here it is warmer. Why? Because more sunlight here, the sunlight or this part receives more sunlight. And imagine a huge ocean or a very large ocean. Here, for example, the water at the top is warmer, but water that is the bottom, when you are talking about the ocean, so it is more than 2,000 kilometers deep. Okay, it's very, very deep. So there is no sunlight that come to here. So it is, of course, it is cold. Right. Fine. Can we continue?
Yeah.
طيب بتسمعوا بحكي لكم شغله، مين بيقول لي شو هاي معناها بالعربي؟ تايدز.
تايدز.
أستاذ أمواج.
نو.
هي إشي بيحمل.
شو معنى تايدز؟ المد والجزر. Exactly. تايد.
مين؟ مين جاوب؟
What is the meaning of
أنا.
طيب this is يلا who would like to answer or to explain?
Mr. مد.
أستاذ تايد معناتها مين أستاذ I know
مد وجزر.
تايد.
استنى نسمع لغسان بعدين لسدين. تفضل غسان.
تايد معناتها بالعربي لما البحر يتحرك يمين ويسار مثلا.
مرات بتحسوا انه for example have you ever been in the beach?
Yeah.
طيب sometimes the ocean water or the sea, the water reach large distance to the shore. Okay, sometimes it is بنحسر بصيروا جزر like this. طلع شوي. Suppose that this is the ocean, okay, and this is the beach or the shore, okay. Sometimes during the day the water reaches larger distances to the shore, okay. This happens every day, and sometimes the water is
Teacher, can I say it?
ايوه احكي.
المد والجزر.
استنى شوي. المد طبعا exactly المد والجزر. مين اللي حكى؟
Mr. I said the first one.
لا وحكت سدين. سدين يلا ايش بدك تحكي كنت؟
No, I said the man.
Tides means طلع tides.
مد وجزر.
Exactly.
Or the flow of the water.
Yes. Sometimes the water or the ocean water go deep to the shore. So But sometimes it is the level, يعني, look here, please. I want to, this is, for example, the ocean. This is the ocean, okay? This is the ocean. And this is what? The beach or the shore. Sometimes you notice that during the day that the water reaches what? Rises to the shore. So look at the definition of the tides. Tides are rising and what? Rising and falling patterns caused by the pull of gravity. This is caused by, did you know that the tides are caused by the gravity of moon? The moon gravity or moon's gravity pulls the ocean. This is the earth. This is the moon. Both of them exert a gravity on each other. The earth's gravity pulls the moon and the moon's gravity pulls the earth. And so for this reason, the oceans on water in the oceans or Earth's ocean is affected or attracted by the moon's gravity. For this reason, tides happen. So tides, it's the rising and falling pattern of the ocean. Rising and falling patterns of the ocean. These rising and falling patterns caused by the pull of gravity. By the way, tides happen every day. يعني few hours, for example, there is a rising pattern of the ocean, and the water level, the ocean water reaches high distances in the shore, and at the same day, the ocean water fall or restricted. Okay, so at every day there are rising and falling patterns of the ocean. This is caused by the pull of gravity. So we call them tides. Okay, طيب. This is everything يعني about in this page. Oh, sorry, I forget to talk about currents. The currents. Currents are caused mainly by wind. Okay? The movement, look here, look at the next page. This is the the ocean currents.
Teacher.
Which way? The ocean's surface, there are two types, by the way. There are two types of ocean currents: surface currents and deep ocean currents. Surface currents and deep currents. Look, the ocean's surface water moves in a consistent pattern in the form of currents. What is the main cause of currents? Is the wind. Surface currents are caused by wind, highlighted, okay? Scientists name currents according to their places to help them identify them. Scientists name currents to help identify their locations in the ocean. For example, California P. Row. One of the currents is called California P. Row. Other is called the East Australia. Okay? These are the examples of currents. Look at the movement of the currents. Look. Do you notice something? What is this area is the north hemisphere. This is the equator. This is to the north of the equator, and this is south of the equator. Notice that in the north, to the north of the equator or the northern hemisphere, currents move clockwise. What is the meaning of clockwise? Like the clock. The clock moves in this direction, okay? So currents to to the north of the equator move clockwise, but currents in the southern part or the southern hemisphere or to the south of the equator, they move counterclockwise to the opposite of the clockwise, like this. I want to remind you that the clock moves like this. This is, for example, clock. This is the clock. Wait a minute. This is 12, for example. 3.
Mistake. The class is over.
يلا وظل
Miss
2
Lamia is
minutes.
sending.
ظل 2 minutes.
Yeah.
طيب.
Star, the class is end.
Look here. The clock moves like this. So in this case, we say clockwise. But if you move like this, it is counterclockwise. Currents to the north of the equator. This is the equator. Notice that currents to the north of the equator are moving what? Clockwise.
Mr.
أيوة.
Miss Lamia send the Zoom meeting.
طب يلا. And the currents to the south of the equator moves what?
Oh yes.
Counter.
Okay.
يلا goodbye.
Goodbye.
أنا عشان
Bye.
دخلنا متأخرين بس هي بس. يلا goodbye.
Goodbye.